Hi everyone, it's me, Darlene. I am here to cut up some of this fabric. And instead of just doing that off camera, I thought I would turn the camera on and show you what parts I measure in order to determine what size blocks would work best for stuff like this. This is a striped fabric. I call it like novelty stripes. This one happens to run alongside the selvage, parallel to the selvage. So it's good for strips. You can, if you have like a 3-yard cut, you can cut your strips and you'll have 3-yard strips that you can use in strip quilts or as borders or whatever you need. I just sold an entire bolt of this print as 2-yard cuts, and then the last piece wasn't enough for 2 yards, so I thought I'll just save it so I can have some cool stuff on my penny auctions, and I also can show you a video as to how I cut it. But I don't think I'm cutting all of this in this video because it's a lot of cutting. So let me just show you what I do. And of course, I could just cut the strips and we're done, but I like to cut squares. I just really do, and I think it looks interesting. The first thing I do is I look at my strips and say, are they all the same size? Now, sometimes I have strips like this that vary, like quite a bit. That's a little bit harder to determine unless I want to cut it into all different size squares. This one seems to be all the same except for this guy right here. This is the only one that's smaller, and the needle holes of the selvage are actually in the print. That doesn't mean, oh, you can't even see. That doesn't mean that this is wasted. I could probably do some really cool 2-inch squares or 2.5-inch squares, and that would work out great. So let's not worry about this guy right now. Actually, though, I might take this strip off before I start cutting because it won't be the same size. So anyway, we'll worry about that in a minute. But what I do is I look at my strips and I have already checked and they're all about the same. So I'm going from, the colorful edge to the colorful edge, and I get 4 inches all the way across. Now when I cut, I'm initially going to cut just between these strips because I have a nice area to cut. But when I cut the squares, I like to cut on the colored part because if I try to leave like 1/4 inch of white, when you sew, it makes it, you have to be more fussy, more careful so that when you, sew two together and you open, that all the white is hidden if you want that to be caught in the seam allowance. So to me, it's just easier to go ahead and cut right on the print or right next to it. Now, if you cut right next to it, fabric gets warped. It makes it, again, a little bit harder. So I think it's cool to just do it on the border if you can. So that would probably take me to like a 4-inch square. Well, 4 inches this way. So if I'm going 4 inches this way, I know I want to go 4 inches this way. And now this is a pretty big print, and I'm not going to be fussy cutting in this direction. So it means that, there'll be partials, and I'm okay with that. I think I'm okay with all the partials, even if it's a partial gift, partial hats, partial, is it champagne or whatever. And I'm just going to go with that. So first, I do want to take off this strip that is not going to be used with all of these guys. So I'm just going to, with my scissors, cut this strip off. Voila! Save that for another time. Cut a straight edge here on this side. Now I kind of want to see how much do I actually have of this. Well, let's just measure on 20. Okay, so 20, 30, 40. I'm going to cut so that I have 20 inches to cut, but I'm going to be generous, so I am going to go with 22, and then I'll be able to cut, I should be able to get 5 squares going this way. Oh yeah, so this is just a rough cut, so I don't have to worry about it. Except my mat's in the wrong direction. It's complicated when you're recording and trying to think and also talk and record. All right, so I'm going to just cut at 22 inches. And we'll put this away for another time. Now I'm going to cut my strips, just rough cuts, and I think I will use my rotary cutter. See, this is a much more manageable size now. So I'm just going to cut on the white, and it doesn't have to be perfect because I'm going to still be trimming these. It's just to separate them at this point. I just edited the first part of this video and I misspoke when I told you that from the edge of the border to the edge of the border was 4 inches. No, it's 4.5. 4.5, and then that's when I said if I cut on the colored part, I would be able to get 4-inch squares. So I know that might have been confusing. And now, this is a little awkward for me to cut at this length. So I want to cut this strip down, but I need to do it in a way that I know I can get my 4-inch, 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 because I'm going to get 5 out of this. So if I were to just fold it in half and cut it, well, then I'm losing one of my squares. So I can't do that. Let's get this back to something that I can understand here. So because I was generous, 4 plus 4 is 8. So I'm going to cut a generous 8. So like 8.5. So I'll be getting 2 squares out of this one, and then I'll be able to get 3 out of this one. So let's just take this right down to 12. Well, 12.5. There's no right or wrong way to do this, apparently. You do whatever works for you. I like to cut multiples, if at all possible. So I'm going to do that with another strip too. When it's fussy cutting, it's very time consuming. Okay, so I had said like 8.5 and then 12.5. I once thought I could fussy cut a lot of things and have them on eBay, and yeah, that was a joke. I even thought of, selling them outright on my sales, but no, there's just no time for that. So now I'm going to take the 2 longer ones, and I put it so that I can see here that the lines are lined up. And I'm going to be cutting for me right here on the 9 and the 13, and that's going to give me 4 inches. And let's see, maybe I can do these 2 also. Yes, I'm quite sure I can. And because I'm cutting on that colored part, I have a little, wiggle room. Okay, let's see if I can do this, or if I'm about to fuck it all up. 9, right there, and on the 13. Looking good. Now we're ready to cut in the other direction. And I'm just doing 4-inch squares. Look, our first pieces. They're cute. Now, this border might not be perfectly even on each one of them. Like I said, the fabric can warp. We're not doing it, fussy cutting one layer at a time, but it gets the job done, and it gets the job done good enough. Oh, that's right. We have these little champagne glasses. So let's go on to do this one. I'm going to give that a press again. Can I complain one more time about how much I hate irons with auto off? Hate it with a passion. And this is what we have going on. Let me do this to the rest of these strips. I am going to cut them into manageable size pieces, just like I did. And then I'm going to finish doing all this cutting. Let's see, how many do I have left here? 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Cue music. And we are done. We should have 40 squares if I counted those strips correctly. And let's just look at a couple of them. It is nighttime, but I will do my best to take pictures of all of them for you guys. And you can see that on eBay. Some balloons. And the ice cream cones. Cakes. It's just so festive. The champagne. What else do we have? The party hats. I think there was 2 rows of gifts. I will be counting them all, like I said, and taking pictures of all of them. And you can just do some fun things. Now, if you would have wanted bigger squares, you would have just measured 2 of these. You know, you're limited. You can't just say, oh, well, you know, I want a 7-inch square, because that might cut into, you know, things that you don't want to be cutting into. So for these, we had an option of like 4-inch squares, or we could do like some 9-inch squares. So if you're cutting on the border, like I suggest, that's 9 inches. So you would just make sure you cut 9 inches this way. And that would give you some nice big squares and less partial things. But I love the partials. I love it like when there's like an animal or something and you just have like the paw of a cat sticking out or something like that. It's just very, very unique. So I'm going to take pictures of all of these guys for you. Go check out the eBay auction. The link is in the description box down below. Please subscribe or sign up for my daily email on my blog, meaning you can subscribe on my blog, you can join my Facebook group. There's all kinds of links for you down below. Go check those out. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back with more soon. Bye!